Hello cyberspace, my name is Paradox. As some of you may know, I'm a fan of anime and manga alike. It's one of my most consistent hobbies. Sometimes when I'm picking a series that I want to consume, I run into the issue of how I find best to consume it. I just don't know whether the anime is better than the manga or vice versa, and I don't want to risk spoiling myself by looking too much up. I thought this concept would be a unique way to write a review of a series besides just gushing pointlessly into the mic about things I've watched and read. Be helpful to potential future weebs and rant into a mic for several minutes. Sounds like a win-win to me. I'll be taking a different, slightly more serious approach to the series in some manners, and this is going to be a lot different than what you're used to seeing on my channel in general, especially if you're new around here. But I'll keep the sloppy details to a minimum and jump right into what you're all here for. The subject of today's anime vs. manga episode is a personal favorite, Blue Mindio, originally running from April 27th, 2015 to September 27th, 2019 by manga, and October 5th, 2018 to December 28th, 2018. It's one of the, honestly, many stories that really caught my heart. This series mainly follows the protagonist, Yu Koito, after an unlikely confession from her upperclassman, Toko Nanami. Yu is put into a weird position, never having her own feelings of romance towards anyone, even the boy who she just had to reject. The confession does nothing for her. However, it is very unique. She thought Toko was like her, someone who didn't understand and couldn't feel romance. So why was it that she was getting a confession from her senior, who was notorious for turning down girls and guys alike, who would confess to her very frequently? This series means a lot to me personally, currently being my second favorite manga of all time, so do keep in mind that the review side of things will have a fair bit of bias on that end. Furthermore, I'm going to try and keep this review as spoiler-free as possible. However, if you want to go in completely blind, knowing absolutely nothing about the series, just where to start, skip to this timestamp for a simple answer to the question in the title. In this review analysis, I'm going to be talking about the art, length, story, sound, availability, then give the series a personal rank, tell where things stand, and that'll be my talking covered. Please note that besides the facts, this is all just my opinion. I'm not a preacher of anime or manga. To get the best understanding and answer of this question for the respectful series, you're going to have to watch and read it yourself. I'm just some guy on the internet whose video you happen to stumble into. Take everything with a grain of salt. And with that, I think we're ready to jump into the meat of this video. Art. Art is very important to anime and manga alike. This series is no exception to that. With that said, I would personally take the manga art over the anime art by a landslide. Neither are bad. I honestly think Troika did a good job of capturing Neo Nakatani's world and putting it on screen. However, whether it be slight personal preference for manga art or just the manga being better, I think for a few core reasons the anime falls flat in this specification. For starters, I noticed some scenes looking a little washed out, having an almost dull look at some points. The style is very similar. I'd almost argue it's exactly the same, just put on a screen instead of paper. But there's something about the charm of the manga that the anime fails to capture. I think for the most part, the anime art is the best it could be. Shy maybe some better coloration in rare instances. It looks really good and extremely faithful, which can be on the rarer end. However, it falls just a bit flat. It didn't quite grab my eyes and bring me into the world like the manga did, which is why artistically, I think the wins this battle by a long shot. Length. As with any series, this is a big one, and it's especially a big one in this anime. One of my biggest complaints with the Blue Mindio anime is the length, as you'll come to find out. The manga is currently complete, having a short but sweet, complete anthology and a spin-off series of light novels to go along with it. A plethora of content for enjoyers of this series to consume if they finish the manga and are just craving more. But not just that, a complete story, beginning to end, which is surprisingly hard to find with the series that I really enjoy. I'm looking at you, House Kinokuni Anime. Now, the anime for Blue Mindio doesn't cover the entire manga, only handling about 5 out of the 8 volumes, which wouldn't normally be a problem. In the previous episode of the series, I actually talked about a series that did something similar. It didn't cover the whole manga, but it was still a fantastic adaptation. However, as I said in the beginning of this section, I really don't like the length covered for Blue Mindio. There's a major arc in this series that takes place, A lot of build-up for this arc happens in the anime, but the arc itself never happens. I understand this arc takes place at the end of Volume 6 and beginning of Volume 7, so the creators of the anime, not wanting to tackle the entire series, or more realistically, just seeing that it wasn't all out at this point, couldn't tackle it. But with that said, I think the anime leaves you feeling quite cheated out of it. Even if the build-up for it in the anime is on the simpler end, the ending chosen feels very abrupt and as if you're missing something. It's a perfectly good ending. I like how they chose to use a different arc as a stopping point, but that feeling of loss after watching it, like something should have happened that didn't, can't be ignored, especially with no talks or prospects for a second season, even now that the series has been complete for just shy of 3 years. It left a sour taste in my mouth that gave me the desire for more. I guess that's a good thing for the manga because it'll incite those who feel the same as I did to pick it up and give the ending a read, which is the perfect way to say, cut the middleman. This is an easy point in favor of the manga. Story. I already touched on this a bit in the previous one, but this is more than just length. When making an anime, some cuts are needed, and sometimes the tone of things can be different than how one reads it. This series is no exception. I think the tone of this anime is a bit different. Specifically with you. Not you. You seemed like much more of an intelligent character in the manga. Maybe it was just the way I read it, or maybe it was a genuine fault of the anime. However, some of the ways certain scenes were handled made you seem a bit dumb, in my opinion. She seemed a lot more scatterbrained and out in her thoughts than I thought. That aside, I think there are some strong points in the anime. Some of the emotional scenes do hit a bit harder with the environment set up, the music used, and the general feel covered, especially a certain sequence in episode 9. Also, to the anime's credit, my original criticism is worked out as the show progresses. However, it's hard to look past that in the beginning. First impressions mean a lot. With that said, however, I'm going to have to make this 3 in a row for the manga and give this point over there. The storytelling in the manga felt clean and precise at all times, something I can't say I personally felt about the anime. Addition of sound. I know this is a bit of a weird one since there's no sound in manga, but that's why it's called addition of sound. Sometimes weak voice acting, bad OST, or unfitting intros and outros can throw off the pace and feel of an entire series, and that's what this is mainly here to talk about. Personally, I think the soundtrack for this anime was very good. While it wasn't super memorable in my opinion, I do remember really enjoying it while watching. I think it fit the tone and feel of every scene as best it could, or at least as best as I could imagine it doing. I don't make music or know anything about making music, so I can't honestly say I could do any better. As for the intro and outro and vocal tracks used in this series, they absolutely hit the mark. It's not every day a series absolutely nails the intro and outro, but this one blew me away in ways I didn't expect. It's a simple thing, but being able to set the scene and fill a tone with the intro and outro is very important to a series in my opinion, and I don't think they could have done it better for Bloom Into You even a little bit. And finally, the voice acting. I remember the voice acting caught me a bit by surprise initially. I wasn't a huge fan of it, but the voices didn't take long to grow on me. I don't know that they're perfect, but I know that I did really like them by the time the series was over, and I think the cast and choosing was very good for the series. Could it have been better? Maybe. I really can't say. But take that how you will. Despite all that, I'm giving the sound point to the manga. I could really give or take the voice cast and a good enough portion of the OST itself that I don't think you're at a loss in this department by just reading it instead. Availability. Of course, it's no good having a masterpiece of a series if you can't access it. As far as methods of doing so, I'll only be discussing legal methods. Pirating takes the fun out of this category. As for the anime, it seems to be on Prime and some other streaming service I've never heard of. Of course, buying a disc is always available, unless of course it's not being sold anywhere, which I can't seem to find it, apart from secondhand. And I don't really trust buying secondhand discs, just a little personal tip of advice. As for the manga, it is still very much in print and easy to find, at least for the places near where I am or where I look for my manga. I've even spotted it in stores once or twice, so if you're willing to shell out the 8 volumes of money, you shouldn't have any problem finding this one. That said, I'm going to call this a tie, since I think there's technically a streaming service that has the series for free. I've just never heard of it or used it. Blame Google if that one's wrong. Ranking and final thoughts. As I mentioned in the beginning of this, the series Bloom Into You means a lot to me personally. It's one of my all-time favorite manga. With that said, and my rankings already on the table, I think my choice for which way I think is best to consume it is clear. I think the manga offers a better and more true experience to the telling of this story, and for the most part, I greatly prefer it to the anime adaptation. I think the anime for the series is perfectly fine, but that's it. I think there are moments where it showed potential to be something really special, but the pieces just didn't line up for that. And that's perfectly okay. I think certain scenes of the anime are worth going back to watch, and I really did enjoy certain parts of it, like the intro, outro, and certain scenes seeing animated and bringing things to life were cool, but overall, go for the manga. And that does it for this video. Sorry to those of you who are newer to this channel who might have been looking more forward to seeing something else in this day. Just every once in a while I get the motivation to do some scripting and want to make something a bit different from the standard. Don't worry, my next upload will be more curated to what you expect to see from here. But that does it for this video. For whatever reason you find yourself watching, be it curiosity on the series, enjoyment of my channel, or something else, thank you for watching. For this one, I will ask you to leave a comment. Let me know what you think. I'm curious. These ones always pique my interest on what people think. And I still don't have an outro. And for those of you who just wanted the no bullshit answer, read it. Some scenes from the anime are worth going back for, but read it.